Euphoria's Maddy Perez is the ultra-confident queen bee of Euphoria High. And for 2 seasons, the universe seemingly continually tries to destroy her sense of self. But Maddy has no problem fighting back against anyone or anything that tries to shake her confidence.
90% of life is confidence. The thing about confidence is no one knows if it's real or not.
Her story is a roller coaster of ups and downs, and we can learn a surprising amount about staying true to yourself and not letting the hard times derail you from her refusal to give up. So let's take a look back at Maddy's outlook on life, loyalty, and confidence, and how in the end, she was so right about pretty much everything. Maddy's self-assured nature is one of her defining traits. She took the time to build up her sense of confidence in herself so that no matter what happened, she had a strong core identity to hold her up.
I had never seen anyone as sure of themselves as her.
This can be particularly hard to do as a young person, when so much about you and the world around you seems to be changing nearly every day. But her fake-it-till-you-make-it outlook on life allowed her to build up a shell around herself, not to keep people out, but to serve as a buffer from the harshness of the world.
I feel stupid. What? Everyone feels stupid. Who cares? You feel stupid? Yeah, I did. And then I just chose not to feel stupid.
That doesn't mean that she never feels unconfident. Just like everyone else, she has times where she feels overwhelmed and gets down on herself.
I don't know if I can help it.
I wish you could see yourself the way the rest of the world does.
But Maddy works hard to keep herself from leaning into those emotions too much and letting them take over her life and thoughts. She gives herself time to feel her emotions, but she's always fighting through the darkness. As hard as it might be, whenever she gets knocked down, she always finds a way to pull herself back up again. And that's because no matter what life throws her way, deep down she knows who she is and what she's about. And that secure sense of self allows her to hold on to her confidence and act out the idea of the person she wants to be, even when she isn't feeling 100%.
Because you didn't have to be the prettiest, or the tallest, or the blondest, or the whitest. You just had to have f***ing confidence.
When she's trying on Samantha's dresses, Judy Garland's Come Rain or Shine is playing, and we hear, "I'm gonna love you," as Maddy is looking at herself in the mirror. Her story is about truly learning to love herself, to really feel that self-confidence and love deep down to the same degree that she projects it out into the world. Because there is a difference between projecting confidence and being truly confident. Maddy's got the former on lock, but it's the latter that she's working on over the course of the series. And that's totally normal. She's a teen figuring herself out, while dealing with some pretty wild things on top of the regular high school drama. But Maddy's biggest lesson isn't that you need to be perfectly confident all the time. It's just that you've got to love yourself enough to never let life knock you down. And a big part of that is never being afraid to stand up for yourself. Maddy refuses to take shit from anyone. Whenever someone disrespects her, she's always ready to snap them back in line.
If anyone crossed her, she'd bury them.
This isn't your run-of-the-mill queen bee mean girl bullying in an effort to exert control over the school, though. Maddy has legit reasons for her anger, from trash racists at school to general disrespect from people around her.
Sorry, I didn't hear you, bitch. What?
Maddy knows that she's worthy of respect, and so she expects to get it. And she isn't afraid to get her hands dirty to remind people to watch how they treat her.
See, I'm not a mess, but I do love a fight.
Ugh, it's the best.
Totally underrated.
While she sometimes can come across as kind of mean and abrasive, it's really just part of that protective shell she created to save her soft inner self from getting too hurt. Having to constantly stand up for yourself in a world that continually works to put you down or make you feel small is exhausting. So it's not surprising that her reaction to that isn't always the nicest. While the world tells young women, especially young women of color like Maddy, that they should just settle for whatever treatment they get because at least they're getting attention, Maddy knows she deserves more. This attitude also means that she's not afraid to be honest with her friends. Whereas other people might try to soften the truth, she's not afraid to speak her mind.
Kat, what the fuck is your problem? You're being a bad friend now. You were a bad friend to me, and this whole new personality is seriously unlikable.
And she's also willing to be the one to tell her friends the hard truths, because she knows she's coming from a place of love.
But it's not like I cheated. Kissing is worse. It's so much more intimate.
She doesn't want to see them get hurt or mess up their own lives, or just generally do anything that might end up being destructive to themselves. And so she lets them know straight up.
Then why the fuck do you look like you're auditioning for Oklahoma?
Do I?
Yes. I don't understand. If you're not auditioning for Oklahoma, then why do you look like that?
Like what?
Like a country music star.
In a good way or a bad way?
Bitch, you better be joking.
Hearing the truth can be hard, but it's also incredibly important to have someone in your life that cares about you enough to try to snap you back to reality. And Maddy being willing to be real with her friends does help them accept things they were trying to avoid or just walk in their own truth. Usually. Maddy cherishes her friendships, and once someone is in her inner circle, she's got their back in a real way. Loyalty is incredibly important for her, but it isn't a one-way street where she expects everyone to be devoted to her, while she does whatever she wants, like with most on-screen queen bees. She talks the talk and walks the walk, and is always ready to defend her loved ones and to accept them for who they are.
I've never not gone through someone's phone.
Bitch, you're my soulmate.
And this is why, even though she can come across as a little tough with her love, all of her friends feel safe and comfortable opening up to her. They know she's a loyal friend and won't look down on them or make fun of them for their feelings. And if she does give them flack for it, it's for a good reason. Having this kind of open relationship, where friends feel safe being sounding boards for one another, and don't feel like they have to hide their true feelings or soften them to make them more palatable, allows for much deeper connections. And it means that everyone feels that, even when they do feel the need to hide something from the rest of the world, they can share it with Maddy. She genuinely cares about what's going on in her friends' lives, and is always willing to lend an ear.
What's wrong?
I can't fucking stand Ethan.
I was wondering.
Because Maddy is so loyal, she of course expects that same loyalty in return. And most of the time, her friends are just as committed to her as she is to them. Maddy being super trusting of the people in her inner circle allows her to have those close, loving friendships. But it also means she's blindsided when someone has the gall to betray her.
Oh, you're crying?
No.
You're fucking crying,
Maddy.
fucking bitch. You're
Maddy,
the one who's
come on.
hurt?
In the dissolution of her relationship with Cassie, we can see what happens when someone takes advantage of that loyalty. Maddy had, on some level, begun to suspect that something was up when Cassie, who
Always answers.
stops answering FaceTimes. At the same time, Maddy is unable to get a hold of Nate. But because she trusts that her friends are just as loyal as she is, she can't really imagine that someone would betray her on that level. But it turns out that sneaking suspicion was right.
You expect me to stand here next to my best friend who's been lying to me about fucking my ex-boyfriend? I'm literally gonna get violent.
Maddy is distraught that her best friend would not only hook up with her ex-boyfriend, but especially one who treated her so terribly.
I'm sick of it. He put me through hell and now he's with my fucking best friend. Like, I would have never done this to you.
It shakes her to her core that this bond with her best friend that she thought was unbreakable was something Cassie was so willing to just throw away for attention from some guy.
Maddy wasn't just angry about Nate and Cassie. She was also depressed and heartbroken.
It would have been easy to let this totally reshape her mindset and alter the way she formed relationships going forward into adulthood. Never really trusting anyone, never fully opening up.
All the times that Cassie consoled her, comforted her, pretended to be there for her, none of it was real. It was all an illusion.
But Maddy realizes that she doesn't want to live life that way. This one relationship blowing up was heartbreaking, but she knows deep down that her loyal nature is a good thing, and that the only way to survive this betrayal is to move forward and not let it derail her whole life. After the video, make sure to click the link in the description to check out our Patreon and get access to exclusive videos from us. One of the biggest lessons Maddy herself had to learn over the course of the show is that sometimes you just have to walk away from a bad situation. When you're someone who is so used to fighting for yourself and what you believe in, it can be incredibly difficult to accept that letting go is the right answer. But sometimes it's the only way you can protect yourself. For a long time, Maddy put a lot of stock into being part of a power couple and having what felt like control over a powerful guy, just like her idol Ginger from Casino.
The cool thing about Sharon Stone in Casino is that she ran the over De Niro.
I would fucking kill for that coat.
And she did the same to Nate.
But like Ginger, Maddy comes to realize that being with that kind of guy isn't as shiny and happy as it might seem from the outside. Thankfully, Maddy learned this lesson pretty quickly, while she was still just a teen. And though it was difficult to stand up to him and walk away, she realized it was the only way she could move forward in life.
Out of sight, out of mind.
That doesn't mean it was easy. Her relationship with Nate harmed her on a deep psychological and occasionally physical level, and scars like that don't just disappear overnight.
I think Nate really
fucked me up.
Being trapped in that kind of relationship for such a big chunk of her formative years warped how she saw romantic relationships and herself.
I'll never find that kind of love. There's just no darkness. It's just sweet. I don't know if that would ever be enough for me.
It may at first feel odd that hyperconfident Maddy was the one the show locked into this relationship, but it is actually true to life. Some people get the idea that abusive relationships just don't happen to people like Maddy, that getting into one is indicative of some kind of personal failure to stand up for yourself. But the reality is that it can happen to anyone. And in fact, the fact that someone is usually so able to stand up for themselves can actually help them convince themselves that the relationship isn't so bad, because if it was really that bad, they would just leave and not put up with someone treating them that way. Maddy falls into this trap herself, constantly convincing herself that she can handle it, and that it's not that bad because she feels like she has some level of control over him too. But in the end, she realizes that there is no salvaging that relationship, and that is absolutely for the best. All of the drama Maddy has to deal with over the course of Euphoria's 2 seasons would be enough to snuff out the spark in anyone. But Maddy's core belief in herself and her worth helps her keep going. She did begin to falter when everything really started falling apart, but thankfully Samantha was there to remind her just how huge the world really is, and how much more she has to discover about it and herself beyond what she's experienced in high school.
I just don't think my brain is wired that way.
If you were still dating guys like this in your 40s, we'd be having a very different conversation, but you're 18 years old. Who gives a shit?
Maddy's entire life has been about building herself up into the person she wanted to be, and going after the future she desired for herself. She wasn't just born at the top, she clawed her way up there. She knows that to get what you want, you have to just take control and not be afraid to shake things up and go out into the unknown, even if it's scary.
I just feel bad.
Bad enough to stay in East Highland for the rest of your life?
No.
Maddy realizes that she and her future are way more important than any of the drama bringing her down, and so refuses to let it all make her give up on her dreams or harden herself to the world. Sometimes making the life you want for yourself does mean starting over, but that doesn't have to be a bad thing.
It's so weird to think that, like, no matter what happens, the universe is just out here giving, like, 0 fucks.
It might be surprising to think that we could learn so much from a teenager, but even in just the short amount of time we got to know her on screen, Maddy went through and overcame so much. And her story exemplifies how crucial building up a strong core belief in yourself and your worth really is to being able to grow as a person.
This shit is hard and confusing. The last thing you need is to feel worse because you're not feeling something you're supposed to feel. You do what feels good to you.
Life definitely doesn't stop being hard and confusing once you graduate high school. And so Maddy's life lessons are something that can continue to inspire us. That's the take. Click here to watch the video we think you'll love, or here to check out a whole playlist of awesome content. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. And make sure to subscribe to our Patreon for exclusive new videos.